Welcome to Wild Perspectives. This is a podcast about whitewater kayaking, mostly geared towards beginners, but we welcome anyone to join us. My name's Nick Murray. I've been paddling for about 10 years. I've been all over West Virginia, Mexico, Canada, different places just to get out there and see what the world has to offer. And I really enjoy mostly dropping over waterfalls. I haven't done many, but the ones I have were amazing. And we got Sam joining us. He's going to be our co-host for the rest of these podcasts until the day we both pass away. So, Sam, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Sam Setliff. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Boating on and off since I was 15. I'm 27 now. Kind of like Nick, I kind of enjoy waterfalls. It's kind of my thing. It's a huge rush. I've paddled pretty much all over the East Coast, man. I've been everywhere. I've been out to Colorado, California. My goal is to paddle more in Canada, being my wife's Canadian. And I'll be paddling a Canadian boat, Soul, soon. So, yeah.
That's right, eh? Have you been to Canada at all?
Yeah, so we were there at the beginning of the year, right after we got married in Costa Rica. So we ran off and got married.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, we went and visited her family, which Costa Rica would be a great place to go back and paddle. So I'd like to go give that a shot.
Oh, yeah, my mom's always wanted to go, mostly to see the sloths.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of things there to see. I would say probably the most entertaining is probably going to be the lady boys, but
I heard a lot of the stuff there wants to kill you, kind of like what they say about Australia.
Yeah, but I would also argue that that's Alabama too. So there's not really any difference.
Understandable.
So what have you been paddling lately? You've gone boating any?
Not much recently. Throughout the summer, I did probably the upper yoke about a dozen times and got really comfortable in it, where I could start doing your non-standard lines and actually playing more on it, which is a lot more fun. Recently, I guess the last thing I did was a couple weekends ago, the lower Gully. That's a lot of fun. Should have done the upper, but it was like cold and rainy, and they were doing the marathon, which is the upper, the middle, and the lower. And I didn't want to do that on my first run to the upper. That might have been a tiring day, especially because the lower itself is a tiring day, so I can't imagine all that in one.
Yeah, back to back would probably slam you out for the day.
Oh yeah, definitely. You'd be exhausted and sore.
Yeah, but I mean, at least you're getting better seat time than me since we moved to Florida. So the closest whitewater I get is Montgomery whitewater, which I mean is cool in perspective, but I'm getting kind of burnt out on the concrete and road rash. So.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing over and over.
Yeah,
well, there's really not. I'm guessing there's really not many eddies you can catch. They're all pretty swirly.
Yeah, that's like something that's kind of new in a way, and it's an interesting concept there. All the eddies are extremely intense. They're really bubbly, really swirly. They're recirculating back into the holes in the waves. So I find that it would be a super challenging place for new paddlers to boat. But I also, with that being said, think that it would be a place where if you grew there and that was what you were used to, well, then you would probably excel much further on real water. So
yeah, and you would think something like that's man-made would be made more geared towards beginners, not.
But it's kind of its own thing. I mean, have you ever like, paddled at Charlotte?
No, but I went there, but I didn't paddle.
Yeah, kind of similar. Now, mind you, it's been several years since I've been, but kind of similar things they've got going on there. Mind you, I would say that like as a new boater, if I had to pick one or the other, I probably would like pick Charlotte, especially with guys who are eager to teach me something.
Yep.
Yeah, a bit more room to learn there, a bit more features, but overall, they both have their pros and cons.
Okay. Is the water nice and warm or is it chilly?
Yeah, so this summer at Montgomery, that was pretty much all I got to paddle this summer. I mean, there were days where it was like 100 degrees, 100 plus in Montgomery. And so you'd see water temperatures sometimes be up in the 90s. And in all honesty, you get one lap done and you're facing heat exhaustion. The water's not cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it really was, in my opinion, was kind of a dangerous game to play too much in the summer. You had to have time to cool off. So you were spending money for the drive there, plus spending money to be in the park. I think that you really, like, it was hard for me to get my money's worth of what it felt like, driving 3 hours to do it and then making a lap and feeling like I'm going to throw up or pass out. Nice. Plus, I was like, the only boat that I had this summer was a creek boat. It's not really the place that you want a creek boat because you want to have fun.
Yeah.
And, try different things, and the creek boat's just what it is. I can bomb the whole thing. And
yeah, you definitely want to play boat if you're going to a whitewater center.
Which is exactly why we bought the Monstar. So, yeah, my wife's like a little over 6 foot, and I'm like right 6'4". And so that's kind of the only play boat that we're going to be super comfortable in. So,
Damn, you're both giants.
yeah, yeah. It's just like kind of a weird thing because it's a hard sport to do when you're a big guy. It's a pretty like average sized Joe dominated sport, and I think that with equipment and just gear and boats, you're gonna have a hard time as a big guy getting into it and being comfortable in it. So I'm kind of eager to try to help out other big guys who are getting into it, whether it be for weight loss purposes or just trying to find a good community for support because that's definitely what this community is.
Yeah, it makes sense. They definitely don't have many brands that offer stuff, especially boats for bigger people. It's mostly Soul and Jackson. That's all that I know of.
Yeah, and that's like one thing is like it's kind of a like being from Tennessee, like it's weird for some people. I'm not like a crazy big Jackson fan. I like their boats, like boat design. They make great boats. I've not been like a crazy big fan of the plastic. Just in my experiences, I tend to wear them out a bit more. But you have to kind of give it to them. They meet a market that not a lot of other boat companies meet, and so it is what it is. I'm not crazy about their outfitting or plastic, but here we are. I own one, so.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know much about boat manufacturing, but what I've heard is that their plastics are very thin. There's a guy, John Sue, in DC who makes hand paddles for people in the DC area, and he donates the proceeds to TRR, but he said that he doesn't like to use Jackson boats because the plastic is so thin and the hand paddles flex too much. And I
Yeah,
think and I think one of the reasons that people use Jackson boats is because they're so easy to outfit and move around
for
with
sure.
those strings, or as my friend likes to call tampon strings,
Yeah,
and makes it easier to make those micro adjustments. But the problems that I've had with it is that they come out way too easily. Even if you push them down and seat them in well, after a while they wear out. And after paddling in a dagger rewind on the yacht, I was like, why am I torturing myself in my antics? Like,
yeah.
I like to have the boat that's nice and secure and doesn't move around. Whereas I love my Rockstar because, in my biased opinion, Jackson makes the best playboat. That's why they're all winning the competitions. And no one else is coming close.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think like just in my experience in the Monstar, like sure I might have to pop skirt and tighten up the back band a little bit on it, but overall, like the performance of it, it's super fun, it's super comfortable, it's pretty affordable. And like on the used boat market, like they're pretty affordable. Yeah, I mean, don't have too many complaints with it, other than just like I'm not crazy about the outfitting, and I would say that this boat will only last us one season with the both of us using it the way we do.
Yeah.
But there's things you can do to make boats last longer, like maybe don't seal launch down the stairs and or you know what I'm saying? Like, but overall, man, I don't want to talk too much shit because I do enjoy the product. But that's like something that everybody likes the outfitting about Jackson because like I mean, you can adjust it to yourself pretty fast. I mean, I could hop in a boat and then paddle it, and you could hop in it right after me, and within 10 minutes, we're going to have you in there pretty comfortable. And I think that that's something that really intrigued me with like Soul. I recently ordered the Bigfoot. I demoed it last weekend with Sam, my buddy. It was pretty cool, man. The outfitting's very similar to Jackson, as in like bulkhead wise. Bulkhead adjustments were super easy. They're a rope system. The concept is somewhat the same, but definitely a little bit stouter. I liked that. So yeah, I'm super eager for that. I'm eager to try something more innovative on the market that's sturdy.
Make sure you use coupon code SOUL to get 20% off. We are not sponsored by Soul.
Yeah, man. I just kind of back to the topic of like gear in general. That's been my big thing is like a big guy, just finding the right gear, knowing what to get, and still trying to do it in affordable ways. And I'm sure you've struggled with the same issues.
Definitely affordability. I see Jackson as kind of like the Apple of the kayaking industry.
Yeah.
They're expensive, hold their value, they're quality and easy to use and adjust. And the downsides being they don't really, there's not much innovation, but that's probably most brands because I feel like you can only make a kayak in so many different shapes and change so many things. So
Mhm.
after a while, you're kind of just copying each other, going after old designs and bringing new life to them.
Yeah. Which, with that being said, it's like, who am I to critique boat design at the same time? Like,
Exactly. I don't have the skills. Like, good for
know,
them.
and then, I can get out there and I can paddle it to the best of my abilities, right? So I can hop in this boat and I might be able to surf okay in it, but let's just be real. There's somebody out there who's who's flipping it, who's, having a blast in it. And that's not where I'm at. So who am I to critique the design of this boat?
Exactly.
My boating abilities, not even being able to push it to its limits. So I try to stay out of those waters as much as possible.
I like to say there's no bad boat, it's just a bad boat for you. Or
No, yeah, because I see people all the time that are still boating boats from like the 2000, 2006 era, which when I first got into boating when I was 15, that was what I could afford, and those boats were so uncomfortable, man. Like holy shit! And then there's always that guy that bought one off Facebook Marketplace 2 years ago that he's like, this is the best boat I've ever had.
yep. That's what I started in was 10, I think. The Milan came out, Piranha
Yeah,
play
yeah,
boat. It's pretty well, I
yeah.
started in the Piranha Fusion, which is a crossover kayak. And then after using that for a couple years, I switched over to the Milan and pretty much play boated most of my kayaking. And it wasn't that comfortable. It was probably a little bit too big, but it got me down a bunch and I learned a lot from it. And then eventually I got a Jackson Rockstar 2016,
Yep.
sold that, which I shouldn't have because it was awesome, but I needed the money. And then I went to a Milan Medium, which fit better, but it definitely doesn't stern squirt as easy as a Rockstar does. And then went back to a Rockstar.
Yeah. So, do you remember Necky? Like all the Necky boats that you used to see on the market all the time? Like
It
they
sounds familiar.
yeah, so Necky made a lot of flat water boats, but they were pretty decent into the whitewater industry for a long time. My first boat was like a Necky Crux, and it was a creek boat. Yeah, man, it was weird, bro. And I remember like being 15, thinking that was the coolest shit ever until I hopped on it for the first time and experienced what good outfitting was.
Yeah.
From that point forward, I was just like, yeah, man. Which I think a lot of people hate the Piranha outfitting. I'm
Oh,
just
it's
more
terrible.
yeah, I'm talking about the stability of it. Being able to stay in my boat was crazy to
Yeah.
me.
It's definitely not comfortable at all.
I know, and I've got wide hips, and Piranha makes super narrow boats. So
So I'm going to hop into one of the topics that we came up for today, which is finding safe paddlers to kayak with.
oh yeah.
So how did you get introduced to the sport and find people to paddle with in the beginning?
Oh, it was bad in the beginning, man. I think anybody with any real experience in boating is going to probably have some sort of horror story at the beginning. I was super interested in it for years, but finally just pulled the trigger and saw a whitewater boat on Facebook Marketplace. I did little to no research, bought it, and this guy that I was friends with in Chattanooga, he was doing a little bit of whitewater boating, and he took me to the Hiwassee River. And I'd never been in a whitewater boat before, never spent any time outfitting it, man. It was cold as shit that day, man. It was freezing. Had no proper gear. I think I was wearing like a damn Walmart D. It was bad, man. And I should have never been on the water. I wish he would have told me, hey, maybe we spend some time at the lake at first. But we went, and I probably had 15 swims, and it almost burnt me out, man. I was like, this is bullshit. Like, why would I do? Yeah, and it took time. I had to like cultivate those friendships. It was, meeting people at the takeout, and you talk to them for a bit, tell them your struggles. I always found that like older boaters were easier to talk to and be around
Oh,
because, yeah, man, they weren't out trying to run class fives. They were just trying to enjoy their weekend. And you could go up to them and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. What do you know? And they'd be like, tag along on a class 1, 2 run and let's show you some things. And so it took time to cultivate, but eventually, I think social media pushed me into it a lot with making the friends. You see just a boater with them running whatever in their profile picture. You're like, yeah, I'll add you. Because
I
next
always
thing,
accept those people, even if I don't know them. As long as they got a kayak, it could be spam accounts. I don't care. If they got a kayak in their photo, I'm accepting it.
like that's how you and I became friends. I don't know if you knew that. Like, I
Yep.
just added you one day, man, and I consider you a good friend now. So, yeah, I think just social media, taking a breath, don't get discouraged, and then just like find reputable people. You'll find reputable people like Hunter White, for example. I think he's an amazing boater, super reputable guy because a lot of other boaters have vested him. Like they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's vetted. He's out here teaching people how to do it. This is a good guy to boat with, and I've been super happy with that. So I think just read the room, take your time.
Oh, definitely. One thing I want to go back to is you mentioned just being kind of thrown onto the river in the cold. I think it's important, especially after teaching with Potomac paddle sports. At first, I was kind of adverse to it, of getting people out on flat water for hours on end before they even ever get on whitewater. And we kind of went to the point with Eli was you don't get out in the whitewater classes until you have a role. And at
Yeah.
first, I was kind of against that, but the more we did it, I kind of grew on it because, especially if you're in a group, it makes the most sense. It's because you don't want to be out on whitewater and everyone's swimming. It's just having that role really increases your confidence and makes for a better day. And then you're not going to burn out or get scared as easily if you have that role first. And how I got into the sport was through this guy we went to church with introduced my dad and I to the Red Conewago Club or the Baltimore Club in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, and that's how I met most of the people that I know is through roll sessions, going to kayaking beginner events. I went through 3 years of beginner classes for me to really get into it,
Yeah.
and there's no shame in having to take multiple years of classes to get to it. It took me 3 years for my role, or some people they'll get it the first try or within a few days.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned about like older people always being welcoming. I think that's part of because they've been through their youth of where they went and sent class 5 and chased the shit. So now they're to the point where they just want to introduce other people into the sport and get them hooked as well, so then they can go and do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that you find a lot of quality and wisdom, and you find boaters. I find a lot of boaters that are capable of class 5 runs are on the Nanahala. They're weekend warriors on the Hiwassee, and it's because they're really spending time working their skills, practicing their skills. And I find a lot of boaters on class 4 and 5. Does that make sense? Like,
Oh, that makes complete sense because people have always said that you can make a class 2 or 3 river into a class 4 with doing the right stuff and really working the river.
yeah,
And a lot of the people who are higher skilled are that way because they went on easier stuff, worked it, and then also taught it to other people. The best way to get good at something is by teaching it. If you can't teach it, then you're probably not that good at it.
yeah, and so I've got a friend named Tony. Man, he was my paddle buddy for a while until I moved. One of the probably fastest like growing boaters that I've ever seen. Mind you, he puts in a shit ton of seat time. But when you start like looking at the way he did it, man, it wasn't he wasn't going and jumping on the Ocoee. I mean, me and him spent 3 months on the Hiwassee. We ran the Hiwassee every weekend for 3 months, man. And that's what he does now, man. He spends his time on the Ocoee. He's on the Ocoee all the time. He's really honing his skills. And then whenever he feels like he's ready, he steps up. He's not like trying to swallow a pill that's too big for him, and
Yep.
really aspire to be a boater like that. And then once again, like you were saying, he's a phenomenal teacher. It's because he's good at what he does.
And it's really important that you take your time and don't try to push it or rush it into rivers that you probably shouldn't be on. And I think that happens a lot during festivals like Golly Fest, because right after you see a bunch of videos of so much carnage and people beatering all over the place because they're stepping up to rivers they probably shouldn't be on because there's so much safety there. And I think it's something we've all done. 2018 when we had a bunch of rains, I went to Cheat Fests for the first time. I did Cheat for the first time, which is like class 3, some 4. Then did the Upper Yock for the first time, and then the following day the Lower Big Sandy.
Mm.
And the Cheat I was ready for, but like the Upper Yock and Lower Big Sandy, not so much. I was in a Waka Gangsta, which is a very high volume boat, way too big for me, and I was out of control, just like getting in the way of people. Just shouldn't have been on there. And it doesn't help that the people I was with and that were showing me down that river were not people that I should be paddling with, and I know that now.
Yeah,
Because one of the first things they said to me was, "Oh, you don't need your throw rope," and that's like some basic thing that you should have. But I was like, "Okay, you know better." And at the end of the day, this rope's for you. It's not really for me. So I'll leave it behind. That's fine. But yeah, just
I mean,
we all
I
have
think
those bad experiences on the river where we try to step up to something we shouldn't have.
no, and I think that like that would be a phenomenal indicator that somebody's probably not who you should be boating with, especially if they're saying, "Hey, you have these safety features available. You have these crucial safety features available for your boating career. Don't take that with you because that makes
Exactly.
you be less prepared." I mean, I take my throw bag with me on class 1 too. I'm like,
Yep. It's always good
this,
to have it. It's so easy to just throw in the back of your boat. And I think
yeah,
it's something even like the higher level boaters forget to do. because when I go to the upper Yak, even I forget. Like when we go out to watch the main spots, National Falls, when we all get out of our boats, none of us bring our ropes with us. We just leave it in our boats, which is something we should always carry with us. Even though it's a rapid that you get out of easily, it's still good to have just in case, because someone could find the only rock there and pin on it, and then no one's prepared or ready.
Yeah, and that's I think with that being said, another topic we should definitely touch on, whether we do tonight or another time, is like not only having the equipment, but having the knowledge for the
Yep.
equipment and having it ready. I mean, man, it does not help you if you do not have it ready.
Yep. You always have to be able, if you have the gear with you, you need to know how to use it. Or if you
Yeah,
or if you have something like a rescue PFD, at least let the people with you know that yeah, I have it, but I don't know how to use all the features.
yeah, no, and I mean, my wife and I we're talking about that tonight. Like, she's still a pretty new boater. I've gotten complacent. I was like, hey, this coming season, we're getting into rescue rodeos again. We are going to do some swift water training. Like, we're going to get into anything that we can make time for, and because I think it's that important. I don't. You're a fool to get on anything, any whitewater, without having at least rescue rodeo. I mean, that's insane.
Yep. And that's a good way. Another good way to find people is by taking those Swiftwater classes, because it shows you, hey, these are also other people who are responsible and want to learn more, and these are people I want to paddle with. If you are paddling with people and you never see them at any of these classes, this kind of shows you probably can't trust them, because
Yeah,
there's definitely some people that I've paddled with or still do where I wouldn't put my life in their hands, but I know I'm skilled enough on that river where I don't need to worry about them rescuing me. I can pretty much take care of myself, which
yeah,
is not the best feeling to have. I'd rather have people that I can trust all the time.
yeah, and I think you're going to boat with people, and I'm sure you currently do. I mean, I know that I currently do. People who are, in a sense, reputable, that have lost a lot of skills that they should still have, and they're too prideful to say, "Hey, it's been 3 years, 4 years since I've practiced this skill. I need to brush up on it," because they're too prideful. Oh well, I'm a class 5 boater. I'm well known in the community. I don't want to go to a rescue rodeo
Yep.
on a clean river for a weekend. Dude, go. Like, be an example. That's the best
Yeah.
time.
And they can be pretty cheap. Like you don't have to fork out a bunch of money for some of these. Like all the
Yeah,
ones I've done were like $20 through a club.
yeah. That's like, I know, like in the Chattanooga area, there's like TVC, Tennessee Valley Canoe Club. They do a phenomenal one that I've gone to several times throughout the years. And usually it's like $50, and you go. It's a couple days, but at the end of it, like, they're giving you stuff. They're giving you a T-shirt and a throw rope. Like, you're the stuff that would you gave them the money for. They've bought equipment for you. So
That's
essentially, it's
awesome.
free money off of you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
And then also like not just swift water, there's wilderness first aid. There's so many
yeah.
classes you can take. I mean, the more prepared you are and the more skills you have, the better you're off on the river, and the
Mhm.
more people are going to want to paddle with you.
Well, and I mean, I don't know where you're at with it, but you bring up like wilderness first aid. I'm guilty as hell, man. I was a cop for years. For years, I've saved people's lives. I carried around a med kit in my patrol car that I built personally. I knew how to use it. You know what's not in my boat right now?
First aid kit.
And it, you and I are talking about this. Is kind of, I said the other day, you and I like being friends with you, and I like being friends with people of intellect, because you find that you get to dissect yourself a little bit more around them, and you can call yourself out on bullshit, and you do more growing. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. I'm making a note.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Being able to talk to people and reflecting, because then you're like, oh shit, that's what I do.
Thing is, once again, the complacency, man. I find that this past year, that maybe it's the lack of seat time and like just everyday life's been happening. I've not been putting a ton of thought into my boating, and so when I go, it's been so sloppy, man. I mean, everything from my roll. A friend of mine, Courtney, the other day, I was just messing around in the playboat in a hole, and I was bringing my arms way too high up and surrendering my right shoulder, which I've already had a shoulder injury. And she was like, "What are you doing, man? If you can't hold a tennis ball under there, you don't need to be." And I was like, "Dang, that's me getting complacent and
Yep.
lazy." So I'll be the first to say I've got a lot of things to work on, but being around people of more experience, they're watching me, they're willing to give me those tips. It's huge.
Yeah, and I definitely think becoming complacent, something we're all guilty of, especially because fortunately there's not many drownings or injuries or fatalities on the river.
Mhm.
So you get so complacent, feeling so comfortable in these rivers, thinking you're invincible and like nothing will happen. But even the most skilled boaters can have fatalities, and there many have.
Well, I watched. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go, but like I watched a lot of videos from goalie this year, and I mean, if you've ever been, I don't know if you have or not, but
Yeah, I've been a few times.
it's a madhouse. It's a shit show, and like
Yup.
people are drinking. I mean, and I get it. Everybody's having a good time, but have you ever noticed the guys that are manning the ropes? I mean, those dudes are on point. They didn't volunteer to get down there because they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, watch these guys run these ropes, and you're like, fuck, they've been practicing. They're good. Like that's who I want to boat with. But it's like they deserve somebody to boat with that's just as good. So definitely,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's like if you want to be able to paddle with these people who are good, you got to be good yourself and practice this stuff.
Yeah, you owe it to your friends, to your fellow boaters when you're out there. I think that when you're talking to new boaters, like this podcast is really for. I can't stress this enough. I think that training is huge. Resource finding your resources are huge, which you can reach out to either one of us. We'll be glad to give you plenty of resources. I'm more like southeast, like Tennessee area. He's a bit further north than I am, but between the two of us, there's plenty of resources. I'd be glad to help you out. That's I think training, and then obviously having the proper equipment. I think that that's probably even bigger than training. I mean, you can't train without the right gear. So
Yep. And I think one of the biggest resources for me, I know they get a bad rep, but clubs. Clubs have introduced me to so many people and gotten me tons of skills. And I think they served more of a place back when we didn't have social media. So they're
yeah.
definitely are dying down, and we'll probably have another podcast maybe talking just about clubs or schools or more official entities. I forget where I was going with that.
Like when it comes to the gear and training, clubs are great resources for gear too. I think that's kind of what you were aiming at.
Yeah,
Like,
clubs are great for being able to get gear and try stuff out without having to spend a bunch of money. For the Baltimore club near me, there was $20 a year for her whole family, and you could get boats, join roll sessions. That was cheap too. Good beginner sessions on the river, and really get you introduced into the sport with a bunch of volunteers, and
mhm,
introduce you to tons of different and cool people. And like
mhm,
once you get to a certain point, a certain skill level, you kind of outgrow those clubs, and people and they become a little clicky,
mhm,
but that's fine. I
mhm.
mean, who doesn't want to paddle with the people that they know most and they can trust and rely on?
Yeah. So like it sounds like your experience with clubs was a lot different than mine. Like TC was like my home club when I was first getting into it. In fact, they kind of like helped me rebound from such a terrible beginning experience of it. Back to like, I mean, it was winter time, so they were doing pool roll classes at the YMCA where the water was warm. I had people that were willing to work with me, but I found that like when you started getting into those cliques, I mean, there was a lot of drama, and it became like high school.
Oh,
But
definitely.
the club was phenomenal. Administration for the club, staff for the club was awesome. But yeah, so with your experiences like club gear, I found it to be pretty mediocre. I mean, it was great that it was a resource, but dude,
Yeah. I'm not saying it was great, but it was something to use.
yeah,
Fortunately, my dad bought us a bunch of gear when we first started, so I didn't have to. I don't really think I used club gear. I just know it was available. As I said, I started off with a crossover kayak that worked fine for the first few years, and had whatever cheapest PFD and helmet you could get. So stole Quist, and I forget the helmet, but it works. It serves you on class one, class two, until you need to start spending more money on quality gear that's gonna last and can take impacts and take hits.
so if you were going to give any advice, I mean, you've got quite a bit more experience than I do. If you were going to give any advice to a brand new boater who's walking in off the street that says, "Hey, I've watched Dane Jackson do some hood rat shit on a river in South Africa. I want to do that one day, but I want to start right here." What would be the first bit of advice that you would give?
I guess it depends on their budget. Always the fastest thing you can do is go to an official school or find a mentor and pay them. You can probably find mentors to teach you for free, but the best way in any way to compensate them for their skills and times is just pay them, which that's going to be more expensive. So go for a school. But if you don't have those kinds of funds to put towards this hobby, then join a club and meet people there, get instruction there, use gear, network with people, try their gear. It's don't you don't have to jump into it full force and get all brand new gear your first year, first session. Just try a bunch of different stuff and see what works for you.
Now, I would argue when it comes to the gear aspect of it, I might be that guy, but I'm like big on like buy your own helmet, make it new, like and buy your own new PFD. Whether it's the a $75 Ninja and a burn helmet off of eBay. I mean, you're looking at both of those things combined being $150 max. But I think that like those two safety features are huge. But yeah, I would agree with you though.
Yeah, generally I tell beginners to buy a brand new helmet, PFD, if they're going to be paddling the winter dry suit because you don't know how people treat it. But if you're a little more experienced or you really know and trust someone that buys and sells gear, shout out to Don Beamer at Highwater Hobbies. I've bought and used helmets from him. I think I got both my rocker full face and my rocker non full face from him used because I know that he's not going to sell me something that shouldn't be used on the river. But most people, when they're getting in the sport, they might not know anyone like that can help them get quality gear. So they should buy new just to be safe because you don't know how people are treating it.
Yeah, and that's like when you start looking at like gear and stuff as a new boater. I mean, God, I mean, let's not even get into paddles and PFDs. I mean, holy shit. I mean, when you're a new boater, like I don't know if you can see it, but there's a Warner Rio sitting behind my powerhouse right now because, dude, I'm just going to be honest with you. When you start looking at prices of things, I mean, this sport is an intimidating sport when it comes to money. It's insane. I mean, I was when I got back into it after I took a few years off. I was a cop. I made okay money. I didn't make great, but I still remember thinking like, damn, dude, can I really afford to get back into this? Because
Yeah, it's super overwhelming, especially if you want like the best quality gear, which you don't need. Once again, you don't need it when you first start out. But
yeah,
like a carbon fiber, if you want a bent shaft or non 30 degrees, it's gonna cost you like $420. PFD normal ones like I guess $50. If it's rescue, like 300. Helmet anywhere from like 50 to $300. Boat anywhere from like 50 to $2,000 or
yeah,
3,000 if you want a carbon fiber boat. It really adds up. So that's why I express the importance of just trying gear and seeing what you like.
yeah. I agree. Like I think that we keep making full circles, but that's where the club culture comes in handy, man.
Yep. That's why I think it's super useful to join clubs, even though I know they get such a bad rep. And yeah, it's because there's a lot of drama that can come out of it. And clicks, I'm not a fan of clicks, mostly because I don't get invited to them. But I'm sure you love them if you're part of them.
Oh yeah, man. But when it comes to clubs, like I have like a bittersweet thing to it because like I'm pretty open. Like getting into boating was a mental health thing for me. I got into it when I was like 15 because I needed a community and I saw that community being there. Took a few years off when I became a cop. I worked all the time. Started noticing that I needed that support again as a cop and like the club culture was so quick to act on that. Like I came in, I'm like to some of these people that I've not boated with in years, and I'm like, look, I'm struggling. I need to get back into this. I need the friendships. I don't have friends. Like I worked night shift. Nobody wants to be friends with a cop, like especially in this community. Like love you guys, but I know you guys are all smoking dope and like doing whatever, man. Well, who cares? Like I. And so, like, I was like really intimidated getting back into it, man. But then I learned something, and it was like with the club culture, whether I was in a pool at roll practice or I was on a river, it was, hey, no one cares what the fuck you do outside of here. We're on the water.
Yep.
So it didn't matter how shitty things were outside of it. So, like, club culture can be toxic, but I have a lot of love for it. My wife, she got into boating before I met her with AKC. She went to the University of Alabama. They have a kayaking club there. She told me that like the first few roll practices she went to, she sat in her car and cried while they carried boats in because she couldn't go inside.
Wow.
And the woman that she is now, I like accredit them a lot to that. So if you're listening to this, like don't rule out clubs. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're great.
a lot of fellowship to offer.
I think one of the big reasons I like them is because they're pretty strict on no drinking or using drugs while kayaking. And I think those two things are often intertwined in the kayaking community, and it's terrible.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna strongly disagree with you,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And it's like I know you guys are out there, I know you guys are hearing it. Like Oh yeah, Sam used to be a cop.
And I think
You know,
that would be something good to dive in like more deeply in another episode as well.
God, yeah, that's your goal.
Because I feel like that you could talk about for a while.
Oh yeah, I could go into that and not like on the like cop aspect of it, but like I mean I'm not afraid to admit it. Like I was an alcoholic for a long time. I'm recovering. I will always be recovering. And man, I'm telling you, like there's been times where I was on the water and I was real thirsty, you know, and didn't help me that the dude that been paddling with me all day is cracking a beer when he knows what I'm going through. Or my wife, for example, it took her quite some time to like stop smoking weed. She's like really struggled with that, and a lot of people don't respect it because they're like, oh, well, it's not addictive. Well, it was addictive to her, and she struggles with it.
I hate when people say that shit. I'm like, anything can be an addiction.
Yeah, man, it's like you learn to build a reliance on it, and it happened. And so it's like this is supposed to be our safe place. I understand that, like, I understand that you guys are struggling with it, but like, out of respect, maybe do it for the people around you because I also don't want to be trying to save your drunk ass either.
Exactly. Or I don't want someone that's has slow reaction time because they're high as hell.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be relying on them.
yeah, and that's like, and I'll be honest, like I think a lot of that has, at least in my region, has kind of started going downhill, because like I see it a few times. You'll see guys that are like Bubba from Boone County, North Carolina, bought him a piranha playboat off Facebook Marketplace, and he's sloshed on the Nantahala, getting his ass handed to him all day. Like you might see that, whatever. But I think, like for the most part, the community's pretty much all in agreement with us. And I think that, like, man, we see usually every year there's at least one death on the Ocoee. Like, let's not make it more. I
Yeah.
think agreement with that. Like, let's chill the fuck out and do this.
Yep. So let's discuss, when do you know you're ready to step it up? Like if you're a class 2 or 3 boater, how do you know when you're ready to step it up to class 3, class 4?
What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
So I think let's take class 2, 3 for example. So I'd classify that myself as intermediate beginner. And you're looking to step it up to class 3, 4. I'd say once you're paddling something like the lower yak, and you're actually, instead of just bombing down the river the whole time, you're catching eddies, ferrying across different places from one eddy to another. You're really working those rivers that are class 2 and 3, mostly class 3 if you're looking to step it up to 4. Just being able to really work those rivers at your current level and be comfortable doing it, turning that river into your playground rather than being fearful of it or not confident.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. Like I think a good example for me when I first got back into the sport, I think a lot of people don't realize. Oh, well, just because I can still roll a boat doesn't mean that I've gained all these skills that I used to have. So I found myself boating on the middle Nantahala a lot, which kind of like, if you're from this region, that's kind of like everybody's playground. Like that's where everybody goes. And I found myself there at like Lesser Wesser, the small like Nantahala Falls. Found myself getting like really bad tunnel vision and stuff through there, man. And it's nothing. Like that's really nothing. And I found myself swimming there a lot. Everybody was talking about, oh, well, it's time to run the Ocoee all summer. Summer's coming. It's Ocoee summer. And I'm like, the hell it is, dude. I'm not getting my ass beat all summer on the Ocoee. I'm not ready. So I think, like, to me, when it clicked that I was like, okay, you're good for the Ocoee, was when I could run Lesser Wesser. I could catch all the eddies, pick my line, run it successfully, and was in control the whole time.
Yeah.
That was a big indicator for me. That was like, hey, this has become a playground to you. It's not even really that fun anymore. It's time to start easing into something bigger. But I think like not only boating skills, but like just safety, like mental processing. Like there's a lot of things that go into stepping up. Friend groups.
Yeah, I'd say more of the sport is more mental than it is physical.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
if you're doing things right and you have the right technique, the water should be doing most of the work anyways.
Yeah, and I think that like if you're still panicking on your local runs, like on these 2 3 runs, if you're still hitting places where you're panicky and you're super nervous, that's an indicator you're not ready to step up. You need to learn those runs, and whenever those runs are no longer a challenge for you, then it's time to step up a little bit.
And sometimes you might even need to step it back.
Yeah, I've done
Like
that.
like if people, I've seen people who are swimming the same river 3 times every time they go, and it's like, maybe you shouldn't be on that. Maybe you should go on something simpler. And once you get good at that, you get your roll, then you can come back on here and work it, and then get less swims. And once you stop swimming it all the time, then you'll be ready to start working it. And once you work it and make those hard moves, then you can step it up instead of just continuously swimming the thing over and over until one day you're gonna get hurt and then be out of the sport recovering for a while. And
Yeah, and
I've definitely seen that and called people out on it, and then they're like, whatever, I'm allowed to call myself a beater and make fun of myself for it. And then months later, I see, oh, I got injured. And it's like, yeah, really?
well, and I think that like I'm sure you've seen it, but like beater culture is romanticized a lot.
And I hate that shit.
It's like, dude, it's like to an extent, like sometimes, like for an example, yesterday we were at Montgomery, which is a safe place to swim, man. If you're gonna get beat, that's the place to do it. You're gonna be fine, nose up, toes up, you'll be good. There's not really, it's pretty low, yeah, like low threat levels on most of that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. But I saw some people getting beat yesterday. We helped them out, got them hooked up. It happened the way the current pushed you in the wall there. It was set up for you to do some beater shit. It is what it is. But I also found that like the people that were all there helped them out. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, that was fucking beater shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next time, let's work on this.
Yeah.
Let's do that again.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out how they can learn from it. It's like everyone's going to beat her, and that's how you learn. If you're just doing everything perfectly every time, you're not going to learn. So it definitely has its place. When it becomes a problem is when it becomes someone's whole personality, or you're doing it in a non-constructive way just to make fun of people.
And we all know one of those people that's like, oh, I'm a beater. That's what I do. And I'm like, you're just not a great boater. Like you're not putting any work into your boating.
Yeah.
Because you like, and I find another thing is like pride, man. When it comes to like stepping back down,
it's hard.
Pride, for me, it's hard for me. I'm a prideful bastard. But like, you start talking to people that have been, oh, it's like, oh, well, 15 years ago, I paddled in the Zimweezy. And it's like, okay, well, that you took 4 years off, and dude, you lost half of that. You're not even middle Nana Halo ready. We got to get you back in a boat. We got to get the boat outfitted. We got to get you set up. Like you need to step it back, bring it home.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you did 15 years ago. It matters what you're doing now.
Yeah, people look at like Dane Jackson a lot. People look at him a lot. Dude, he does some wild shit. It's crazy to watch. But if you ever like watch any interviews or like anything, like I was watching an interview that he was doing a couple of years back. He talked about, he's like, yeah, I still swim. And it's like, I think that is where we all should like aim to be. You should, like the booty bear culture, like, dude.
My gosh, just another thing. I'm so toxic.
It's like, it's fun. It's like, it's fun to swim. It's like, but I'm not going to shit on you for swimming.
Yeah.
I swim all the time. I swam at Montgomery 2 weeks ago, dude. It is what it is. And I should have been snapped.
And I think swimming is one of those things, yeah, it should be normalized, but again, it shouldn't be romanticized. Like it happens. It's going to happen. Everyone's going to do it no matter how good you are. As you said, Dane Jackson swims. There's videos of him swimming, but you shouldn't like cheer it on whenever it happens.
Yeah.
Like you can downplay it and make it like, hey, it's not a big deal, it happens, but you shouldn't be like, oh yeah, woohoo, let's go.
Yeah, and I think you see a lot of that, like that gnarly, just carnage culture. As a new boater, I'm sure you experience this when you get on YouTube because you're stoked, right? You're like, I got to get on YouTube. I want to watch everything boating. My life is boating. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to be about girls. I don't want to be about trucks. It is boating. I don't want to eat unless it's in my boat. And you start getting on YouTube, and you're watching Green Race from 2010, and some dude is just getting gorilla pounded, dude, and you're like, fuck yeah. No, not fuck yeah. That is not it, dude.
Yeah, that's not good.
Been there. He didn't don't romanticize that as a new boater. Like, that's not fun. It's, it is what it is. But like those guys, those people are usually getting beat down because of two things: pride and being in water they should have never been in.
Yep. Lack of experience. I actually took all the accident reports at one point from the American Whitewater and put them in a spreadsheet and organized them by reason or cause of death. And a lot of it is inexperience.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that's the thing is like my inexperience. Like I have so much. There's so much that I have to learn, and I would consider myself an okay boater. Like, there are plenty of boaters that blow me out of the water, but like over the years, I've worked on my pride, and I'm like I'm not, I'm not too prideful to admit that there's better than me out there. I'm not the best instructor. Obviously, with my wife, I've learned that like I shouldn't be instructing her. Like we fight, man. I give up on it. And I'm like, but yeah, I think once again, it kind of goes back to like finding the right people to boat with. Just take your time. Don't romanticize being a beater. That shit's not fun. There's a difference between swimming and drowning. Remember that?
One's gonna have you paddling another day, then other one's not.
Exactly.
We've hit on it a bunch and all over the place, but where do you find people to take you down new runs? So I'd say the biggest places for that are social media, Facebook groups, your local clubs, which are going to be on Facebook. Whenever you're at a takeout or a put in, just putting out your hand, shaking people's hands, and meeting other people, which I'm kind of an introvert, so it's hard for me to do that. Most of the time, the only way I'm going to meet someone new is either through Facebook or someone introduces me to someone else.
Yeah.
And another way you can meet people is going to places where people are going to be, like stores that sell gear, and
Yeah.
meeting the people that show up. And Highwater Hobbies had a Jackson Fun event, and there's a bunch of people that show up for that, and that's how I met some people there as well.
Yeah, I think and also you come to like finding people to take you on bigger runs, and like if you're paddling with a guy, like let's say for an example, I'm living in Chattanooga, I'm wanting to go up to Virginia and boat, or I'm wanting to go up to South Carolina and boat. I don't know a lot of boaters up there. I don't live there. I don't do business there. Go to your local guys that you know that are great boaters, and you say, "Hey, I know that you've travel boated. I know that you know a lot of better boaters. Can you recommend somebody?" I find that if you trust your local guy, if you've got that one guy that, in your opinion, sets the standard and has great resources, which mine is Hunter White. I'm like his biggest fangirl. I like if I had to do that, I'd go to him and I'd be like, "Hey, who do you recommend? Who do you recommend?" Yeah.
And then since he knows you best, he can also refer you to them and connect you one on one directly instead of
Sure.
having just you. And then they can vouch for you to that person.
But also don't get your feelings hurt if that person looks at you and says, "Hey, not yet."
Yep.
Don't get your feelings hurt because people do.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
So, how do you, when you're learning from someone or someone's giving you criticism, how do you know the right people to actually accept criticism from?
Yeah. So you and I talked about this the other day. This was like, man, that's a hard one. So knowing who to take criticism from, that's hard because you have to somewhat already know what you're doing wrong to be able to decide whether they're right. And I always just say, like, research it yourself. So if somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, you need to tighten up your roll. You're reaching too far out. You're going to rip your shoulder out," which is the thing I'm dealing with right now. I got to tighten my roll up. And I didn't know that dude from Adam, and I wasn't 100% sure. I'm probably going to go get on YouTube. I know that like there's tons of professional boaters out there that have tutorials on YouTube on how things should look, how things should be. I know you share them all the time on Facebook. I do. I think that like if you don't know the person, be careful who you take the criticism from. Be careful what you put into practice that they give you, because some people, I'm guilty of it, have no business teaching you something.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of know-it-alls. This community's super big and like super extroverted people who are know-it-alls.
Yep.
Watch out for them. Those are landmines.
I think this is kind of how I know who to take criticism for basically every area in your life is I go by pretty much look for the people who are in the place that you want to be or have accomplished the goals that you want to accomplish. That's one thing I say to explain it is kind of you wouldn't take advice from a fat doctor about how to lose weight. So if I want to paddle class 5, I'm going to take class 5 advice from a class 5 paddler, not a class 4.
Yeah.
If I take advice about Swiftwater, I'm going to go to a Swiftwater instructor or someone I've seen actually use this stuff in practice. And Don Beamer at Highwater Hobbies is the perfect example of someone I would paddle with and trust with my life, because I paddled with him and I see how he helps people. We're going down a rapid and I come out the end of the rapid and he's standing on a rock with his throw rope ready. Mm-hmm. Or he's posted videos of him in rescue situations where he's the one leading. he knows all these knots and everything that you need to know to help someone on the river. So
Mhm.
and that's a good way to find people to paddle with too, is just by watching people on the river, seeing the skills they put those people in the mental list, and
Yeah.
saying, hey, these are the kind of people I want to paddle with.
Yeah, and I find that like kind of like you were saying, you're coming down a rapid. He went down. He said he went down. And he's the first out of his boat. I find that those guys, man, like that. Like I think of times like, and I think that goes just into into life in general, not just on the river. I find a lot of life lessons in boating, and like that's huge. Like always look for the person who's willing to lead the way and be the first out of their boat to help you out,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's at your job, whether that's in your religious practices. Like find the person who's willing to say, let me show you how to do it, but I'm there when you fuck it up.
Yep.
I think that's huge, man. And I think that like those people are so far and in between. And when you do find them, don't be afraid to brag on them. Go to those people, tell them how much you appreciate that stuff, because it matters. Like that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people aren't told they're appreciated enough. So when you say that, they'll probably remember it. And I'm also guilty of that, of like saying things but then not actually practicing it. So it's good
Yeah.
to find those people who, when they say things, they actually back it up with action.
Yeah, and I think that, like, for example, like I've told you several times tonight, like I'm by no means a world class boater. But like my wife, she won't really boat unless I'm boating with her,
Yeah.
and I talked about that yesterday, and I was like, so why is that? Like, if they did a girls' takeover of the Akoi, like, oh, she's not Akoi ready, but for an example, like if they did, why wouldn't you go? And it meant a lot to me. It was very honorable that she like brought it up to me. She was like, because I know that no matter what, you've got me. Like no matter what, even if you have to run upstream and swim out to me, you will get me. And I'm like, dude, you're right. And I think that like that is huge, man, because those people are few and far between. And I'm blessed to say that I've paddled with a few of them. You made a post the other day on Facebook that was like, what's one person you know that like would risk their life for you essentially? And
You had a whole list.
dude, that's the thing is like I'm blessed to have found these people that I can surround myself with and I trust. Like it was kind of stupid, but like this was last winter, I think probably in December. I was boating in the middle Nantahala. It was a little bit up. It was freezing that day. I was dicking off in a creek boat. It got a little bit complacent. Got myself in a weird pin up against this rock where I couldn't roll up, and kind of was just like my body was pinned between the boat and the rock, and I was still in the boat. I was able to get my head up enough to yell out that I was pinned. My boy Tony slid right in there, put himself in I would say like a warm spot, probably not the safest, but dude didn't give it a second thought, like he was in it. And I was like, dude, that's all I needed to know was that you were going to be there, man. And he like just reached over and pulled me right up, and we were out of it. But it was silly, but dude, that meant a lot to me.
Oh, I
So
bet.
I'll always brag on that kind of stuff, man. But there's also a difference between that and trying to be a hero when you're not ready. So take that into
Yeah,
account.
or else you can make it so two people are now in trouble.
Correct. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. Also, I know that like when it comes to like new boaters, like in your area, I know that you had talked about doing some instructional classes for like the beginning boater. Is that still something like you're trying to pursue? Or?
Yeah, I definitely want to get into instruction full time and doing trips.
Yeah.
I just have so much to learn myself, because there's a big gap between actually knowing the skills and being able to teach them.
Yeah.
I know the skills, but a lot of them are automatic, so you don't really think about how to break it down into simple steps that other people can understand. And then when you're only going to get that by teaching people, and when you are able to do that, it's going to make not only their skills better, it's going to make your skills better. And I definitely, while I was teaching over the summer, got better by teaching other boaters.
So is that something that like when new boaters are watching this or listening to this podcast, is that something that you would be open to start working with new boaters? Do you feel like you're ready? Like you feel like you're to that point where you're ready to start teaching new boaters?
Yeah, definitely. We can work on rolling, we can work on different strokes, proper technique, because it's really important to have that strong foundation. And I think
Yeah.
one of the most important things you can just start off the bat is just getting comfortable being underwater, because that's where you're going to spend a lot of time, especially when you're new. So it's best to just get really comfortable with that off the bat, or else it's just going to make everything else more difficult, because you're not going to want to flip. So what kind of skills do you look for in a safe and reliable paddling partner?
Ah, interesting. I think that like what I'm looking for is someone who's mindful, and I think that we've kind of touched on that a little bit already. But like I'm not looking for the guy who has the bomb-proof roll. I'm looking for the guy who's mindful enough to say, "Hey, I need to tighten up my roll. Hey, I need to go take that rescue rodeo." I'm looking for the person who has the mindfulness enough to say, "I need to grow," and in doing that, we'll grow together. And so, when I'm looking for like a safe and reliable boater, I'm looking for someone who's able to critique themselves and still be critiqued.
That's good.
Yeah,
I think for me, I'm gonna keep using Don as an example because he's a fucking badass.
yeah,
So if we're breaking down Don into skills, so knows your swiftwater rescue, your knots, your first aid, stuff like that, and you touched on it a little bit, is being able to self critique and know your own limits. Some rivers I named, and he has the ability to do it, but he's like, I'm never gonna do that. It's not worth the risk. So he knows his skills, he knows his limits, and he reacts in a way that's automatic. It's muscle
mhm,
memory. He doesn't have to think about these things. It just happens. And he's always going to have your back, and you can pretty much just trust him with your life if you had to.
yeah,
And he's always prepared ahead of time without you having to say something or mention it. He's already there, as I said, down the rapid with his rope out, ready to save your ass.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
knowing the river, whenever we're on the upper yacht, like I just go down the normal lines. But when I'd paddle with him, he's like taking you on all these fun lines, these more challenging lines to really push you and challenge you on the river and help you grow as well.
yeah. I think that like there's always going to be that person that gets more seat time than you. If you work a full-time job, dude, I can promise you there's some guy living in a van down by the river who is every day.
Yeah.
That dude's probably going to know that river.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to like listen to how he would navigate it because he's probably ran it 400 times that summer and he's probably not bathed in 2 months. So I'm saying like,
I'm going to come back to that after I say this. And then the last thing I'd say is being on time. There are so many people who just show up like so late, and it's just so disrespectful to people. If you want to be paddling with people and have groups to paddle with, you need to show up on time. And if you say you're going to be there, be there. Don't cancel last minute. Don't show up an hour late. No one's going to want to paddle with you if you continue to do that. There's people with whole reputations built on being late, and then they wonder why people are like, oh, I don't want to paddle with you. And then they're on Facebook being like, no one wants to paddle with me. It's like, yeah, because you're always fucking late.
oh, for sure. And I think to kind of like piggyback on that, it's like the guy who shows up late, hungover, don't fucking think you're gonna paddle with me. Like it's not happening, dude.
Yep.
I don't show up to the river if you're not on your best. I don't care if it's a class two and they just taught a paddle school here 2 weeks ago. Like I don't care, man. Don't show up and put everyone else at risk. Like if you can't be on time and you can't be ready to paddle when you get there, then
Don't be
just
there
don't.
at all. And there's people that I paddle with that are late, but it's once in a while. It's not every time. And it's only like 10 or 15 minutes because of traffic, something out of their control. But it's once in a while. It's not every time, all the time. And that's fine. I can forgive that. Most of the time, they're the only one I'm paddling with, anyways. So I'm going to wait. But if you're always late, I'm leaving your ass. You're going to have to go find another group to paddle with or do your shuttle.
Yeah, if I say that I'm hitting the water at 10:30, that means like I'll wait for you till 11, but I'm not waiting any later than that.
Mm,
You have to kind of set up an itinerary when you're running rivers because you want to give yourself time to practice techniques, to play, and still get down in a safe amount of time. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but dude, we've had when I was younger, there were a couple times where we hit the river a little bit later than we wanted to. Some mishaps happen, and the next thing you know, you're coming off of a river at night, like it's dark,
mhm.
and that's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And a lot of these rivers are dam release based. So if you take too long, you're going to be behind the bubble and scraping on rocks.
Or carrying your shit down the road.
Exactly. And no one wants to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're exactly right. Like being on time is huge, and I think that's huge for new boaters. You're not going to find a lot of respect from people who have been doing it for a long time if you're not going to respect the time they set aside for you.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I want to circle back to where you were talking about boat time and experience. I think it's really important to differentiate the two because someone who's been paddling for 15 years but only paddled 10 days a year is going to be way less experienced than someone who's only paddled for 3 years but gets on the river 300 times a year. So it's important also when taking advice from someone is to know how much boating they're actually doing. Because I was probably 3 or 4 years in, and I met this guy Brandon Thompson, who was going to Little Falls in DC and paddling 3 or 4 times a week. And we went to the what's called the Chutes, little surf wave in DC, and he looked at me and was like, "What are you doing, dude? Why are you paddling with your arms? You need to use your core." And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's been paddling for 2 years. Fuck this guy. But then later I'm like, okay, he was right. I need to use my core. So also, just because someone's not as experienced, you can still learn a lot from them.
Yeah, and I would say, like, with that being said, you're going to get invited to a lot of like group paddles. I'm just going to be honest. You're not going to get a lot from a paddle event that there's more than four boaters. I'm just going to be real with you. Like, when there's four boaters, everybody's there. They're showboating for each other. Nobody's there to really instruct you, and that's not their job. Like, you have to remember that. Like, you can't go with these expectations. Like, oh, this guy's been boating for. He's been boating every day for 2 years. He's going to teach me something. And you go to a paddling event or like a group of 10 plus. He's not, man.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't expect that stuff. It's really disrespectful to someone's time and experience. If you want that kind of personal attention, you need to pay for it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
plenty of people that are willing to do it for free. No doubt
yeah.
about that, but you can't expect it. If they're happy to help and show you, that's fine, but you just never should be expecting it or feeling entitled to it.
And you can be forward about it. Like I've been very forward before. I've gone to better paddlers and been like, hey, I know you're gonna be in this area for 2 weeks. I know you're gonna be doing a lot of boating. Would you have any free time to maybe give me some instruction? I'm willing to pay you. Or if you're not willing to pay, I'm like, I knew a lot of great boaters from Chattanooga. I might hit them up on Facebook and be like, hey, I could really use some good instruction. Would you be willing to come out and paddle with me? I don't have any money right now, but this is where I'm at. And a lot of times, dude, they're gonna be, yeah, man.
Yep.
They'll if they have it, they'll make it.
Yeah, just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. All the worst they can just tell you is no.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people are most people are more than happy though. And then one more thing I wanted to add to some skills for a reliable partner is one thing I look out for personally is when I go down a rapid behind someone, are they looking behind them at the end? And that's something I take note of. And that's something I practice myself is every time I get at the end of the rapid, I'm looking behind me to make sure everyone's doing okay, no one's pinned, no one's getting in trouble. Because if you're paddling, I've paddled rivers for the first time and the person leading me didn't look back a single time. And I'm not going to give specific details about who they are because they're well known, but it just doesn't make you feel safe. You want to make sure everyone's feeling safe and comfortable, and that's by looking out for each other.
Yeah. So kind of like an experience that I've recently had. This took place, I don't know, probably a couple months ago. We were at Montgomery Whitewater. They've got like a competition side that can be pretty aggressive under the right flows. The eddies are super churny, super recirculating. It can be a bitch, man. Like, I'm pretty confident on it. I had a couple of boaters that I was with that was like, hey, we want to try it. I was in a creek boat. I was like, yeah, man, I'll lead. And it's kind of like a big thing that I try to do. Always like, even if the water is kind of crazy, I try to find an eddy, at least something I can see how everything's going. So I just remember we probably got a quarter of the way in. I dropped into an eddy, turned around, and there was a swimmer. So immediately, like, it's low risk there. You're not going to get hurt swimming. He was nose up, toes up. So I immediately start gathering gear. And he was a newer boater. I normally wouldn't have let him try it, but because it was low risk, I was like, you know what? You can at least see why we say you need to stay on the other side. When he got down to the bottom, man, I had like eddied out his boat for him. I had already popped skirt, got out of mine. I was helping pull boats up, and man, it kind of pissed me off because he had the nerve to come up to me and was like, "Man, where were you?" I was like, "Dude, I caught an eddy. I watched you do the whole swim. I can tell you why you didn't come up, all this stuff." But in his head, because I wasn't there to grab him in the moment where he was scared, it was my fault. And it kind of taught me something. It's like, dude, I don't want to boat with that guy anymore because he didn't take any accountability, and he never once said thanks for grabbing my shit.
Yeah.
I was just, man, never mind. We won't be doing that.
Yeah, and just being thankful and grateful and thanking people for helping you out is a big deal.
Yeah, just because, kind of like you said, it's awesome. You want to know if somebody's turning around and looking at you, that's a big thing. But don't expect them to look over their shoulder. When they're catching those eddies that you know that you would miss, that's probably because they're there to watch you. Looking over your shoulder is probably not always the safest thing because we all know you go where you're looking. So
Yep.
I see those guys that are catching every eddy just to see how everybody's doing. That guy who might let you pass him, but he's going to blow past you again. Like he's playing, he's bouncing around to make sure he's keeping up with you, watching out for you, running safety. And that's the guy I'm looking for. This guy, like I aspire to be, like the guy who has the abilities to do that. But I think kind of like we said earlier, just be thankful for the guys who give a damn, who give it a shot to help you out, because nobody owes you shit.
Yep. At the end of the day, I know it's a group sport, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself.
Yeah, you're responsible for yourself. You're responsible for your own gear. And if you're lucky enough to paddle with people who will take care of you and your gear, take note of that. Those guys are good guys. It's not fun having to bulldoze somebody's boat to the fucking bank. It sucks.
Yep.
It uses a lot of energy. Be grateful for those guys, because he could have said, fuck you and your boat. I'm here to paddle for myself. And to be honest, your boat would probably be fucked or pinned somewhere.
Yep.
And it would probably be out a $400 paddle. So,
yep. So it's always good to be self-sufficient and don't expect help, but when you get it, be very appreciative of it. And most people are. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, and most of the time, but you should always be responsible for yourself.
Yeah, and you'll learn those skills on that class 1, those class 2s. Don't be afraid to live there for a while. It's okay. Like if you can't at least locate your boat after a swim in a class 1, 2, then you probably need to stay there.
Yep.
Until you're able to rescue yourself. Don't always wait for someone else to do it. Be a team player by helping yourself.
Yeah, last thing you want to do is step up to something you're not ready for, have a terrible swim, and then burn yourself out and get scared and leave the sport.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of, like, I mean, I hate to say this, but when you step, and I'm sure you've experienced this or at least seen it, when you step up to those 3 and 4s, don't let busted knuckles scare you. Don't let a broken nose scare you. Like, you're going to see these things because accidents happen. Mistakes are made on the river. As a new boater, I remember, like, when I was a teenager, that shit scared me, dude. My dumb ass was running around with a full face on like class 1, 2s, because I was like, hell no, I'm not getting my nose. Dude, just calm down. Accidents are going to happen. Odds are you're going to get your nose broken. If you paddle for 15 years, you're probably going to get a scrape or a boo-boo. Like, no.
I always come home with random scrapes or scars that I don't know what they're from. But
yesterday, like my legs are bruised up.
Yeah, it's an extreme sport. At the end of the day, there's inherent risks, and you have to accept those and be willing to deal with them.
Yeah, I think kind of just to kind of recap the whole night. I think that the big thing is take your time. Take your time for sure. I'm still doing it. I'm sure you still are. There's rivers that I'm not going to get in that I'll go watch. I'll go learn by watching, but I'm not going to get in those rivers. I'm going to take my time, and when I'm ready, then I'm ready.
Yep. Mostly just take your time. Don't be afraid to stay in one class forever or however it takes for you to step it up. Have a good attitude, be willing to learn and take criticism from people who know what they're talking about. I feel like just having a good attitude and willing to learn and work on yourself is going to get you a lot of people wanting to paddle with you. What are some of the struggles you've found with finding people to paddle with?
I think with today's time with social media, I mean, what year did you start boating?
2013.
Okay, well then you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I first started boating, man, like social media, like you had Facebook. No one even, like, Instagram was there, right? Like no one was using that for anything other than, to post pictures of them doing cool stuff. So like it was hard, man, because like even on Facebook, it's so scarce. I think that like the sport itself has really exploded, so it's easier today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think social media has made it fairly easy, man, to find decent boaters and to find reputable people. You'll find, like, moth to a flame. Boaters who are eager to learn will hover around good boaters. They will. Dane Jackson goes to any event, you're going to find 50 white boys that are just like on their knees worshiping him. Watch for that stuff. Like, I fangirl Hunter White. Yeah, we all have those guys. And like, these are guys who are serious about it. These are guys that you should watch. I think that with the way that the sport has grown, I think it's easy these days. My second round in this has been pretty easy, but at first I can tell you it was brutal. A lot of trial and error there.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier, but I still think there's some difficulties. A lot I've probably done to myself because when my first few years, and I still do it, as I post a lot of political shit, and that really pushes people away. So, but to me, Facebook is kind of like my place to vent, which then it scares people away. but it also brings me the people that are probably better quality for me and that I have similar values with and will have a better time with on the river. And I don't drink, I don't smoke, so it's hard to fit in with a lot of groups because that's pretty common in this sport. And if you don't do that stuff, then some people aren't as willing to paddle with you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm not a cop anymore. I gave that up
That's what
just
a
for
cop would say.
yeah, no, like yeah, for sure. Like, you kids got any drugs? No, but I remember when I first got back into this, that was hard because you first start if you're small talking with people and you're getting into the community. People are going to be like, oh, well, what do you do outside of boating? And I'm like, well, I'm a cop. I'm not going to lie to you. And I found that a lot of people were very distant with me. I found that I didn't get invited to a lot of things. Now, those are people, I'll be honest, those are people who were small minded, and I'm glad that I don't boat with them.
It's kind of a good thing because it kind of weeds out the shitty people.
Yeah, and that's like a funny thing. Like my friend Tony, man, I think he's a phenomenal person, great boater. He smokes, man, and he's quite a bit younger. I think he's like 22, 23. But when we first started boating last year, he was like fresh out of college. He was getting ready to graduate. He was smoking a lot. He was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm a cop." And we laugh about it all the time. But he was like, "When you said that, we were already on the river," and I was like, "Fuck." It is what it is. But I don't know, man. I think kind of like you said, this is a very diverse community, and I find myself to be a pretty based libertarian fella politically. So I'm okay with I'm pretty open to anything. You and I have had some pretty deep conversations, and I've had to remove some things off Facebook because people get their feelings hurt. Whatever, man. You can't let that stuff go. You can't put that shit aside. Like I tell you, I saw a post. It was a political post from that one paddler had posted, and another boater said, "I hope that I don't ever see you drowning on the river because you won't get any help from me." Fuck you for that. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen the same thing directed at me, and I'm like, okay, well, at least I know I'm not going to ever want to paddle with you.
Yeah, if you're that kind of boater and your political stuff is going to come onto the river and you're not going to be able to put that shit aside, fuck you. I don't away from me. I don't got nothing for you. Like I don't care what your opinions are. I don't care what you do in a bedroom. I don't care about any of that, man. If you're drowning on the river, I'll be the first one to do anything I can to help.
Yep.
If you're not going to do that for me and mine, stay away from me. Stay off the water.
Yep.
Like
get out of the community. You don't belong here.
yeah, you've got to be. I'm not saying that you have to accept everyone's lifestyle and political choices and stances, but like honestly, on the river, on the water, that's not the place for it. And honestly, if you're that small minded, then I think most of us probably aren't going to want to boat with you anyway. If you can't be open to have a discussion, then you're probably not going to want to be boated with anyway.
Yep. I figure let's end it on how do you judge someone's skills before paddling with them on the water?
I think by finding out what they've paddled in the past. I think that's like a huge thing. If I ask you what you've paddled and you're like, oh well, I've paddled the Middle Nantahala, the Coosa, the Hiwassee. That's about my paddle experience. I'm about okay. Well, probably the hardest of those three is the Middle Nantahala. I'm gonna assume that that's the peak of your paddle experience. We're not going to the Ocoee this weekend.
Yes, just having that river resume ready, and
Yeah.
it's obviously flawed because tons of people just paddle river and bomb it and just get down it, but it's a good way, just like a good entry level way to know if someone is ready for the river. And you can test them on the water, but by the time they're on the water, it's kind of late.
Yeah, I think kind of a safe bet there is to assume that if somebody tells you, "Oh, well, I've paddled the Ocoee," that the Ocoee is their peak. Like, just automatically know that to be on the safe side, you can just tell yourself the Ocoee was really challenging for them, and I should watch that.
Yeah,
I think the safest way. But just because somebody says they've paddled something doesn't mean that they should have or that they actually did.
yeah, and if you have your doubts, you can always just ask them questions to dive deeper into it as well. And another way is just ask who they paddled with or people that can vouch for them.
Yeah.
And if it's a person you trust, well, then you're like, okay, they have good judgment. If Don said this person's good, they're probably fine.
Yeah, like if you came to me and like, oh well, there's this guy that's down in Alabama that's looking for people to paddle with. He's my friend. I think he's a good boater. I'm going to take your word for it because I trust you. I'm going to take your word for it because you're a pretty notable character in the community. I don't think you're going to put me in a bad spot. I trust your judgment, and if that's what you say, then I'll probably go with it.
Yep.
but yeah, I think the resume just went like who you've paddled with, what you've paddled. Another weird thing is look at the boats that they paddle, right? If you got a guy who's like, the Nana Halo is the easiest thing I've ever boated in my life. It's so easy, and I'm like, well, what are you paddling in? And he's a 150 pound, 5'6" dude, and he's paddling, God,
A large in our
or like a Scorch X. I'm gonna be like, yeah, okay. Or if he comes to me and he's like, yeah, I enjoy play boating all the way down the Ocoee. I enjoy working the river. I paddle a rock star. I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's a boat you really have to work on that river. So I think that like just the full resume. I mean, I think I would look at first what rivers they've paddled, who they've paddled with, and what they're paddling.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good list of things to ask, and it's definitely something I struggle with is judging someone else's abilities because you can't really do it until you're on the water fully. Because to me, if someone drives 3 hours to a river, it's really hard to want to turn them down because you're like, oh shit, they drove so far. And I've made that mistake. Is I took people down a river that was flooded, but I was like, hey, I can do this. You guys all drove 3 hours to be here. Let's do it. And fortunately, it went well. We only had one swim and they were fine. But in hindsight, should have turned them away or
But I
found
think
something else to do.
I think that's why we should go back to our smaller rivers. Like us as experience, like we're us as paddlers, we're growing in experience. Don't be afraid to go back to your small rivers and paddle with people there. Make new friends in your small ponds and grow from there.
Yeah.
If you take them to a class 2 run and they swim 10 times, well then no, hey, this guy's a cool guy, but he swam 10 times on a class 2 run. I think I should just paddle class 2, class 1 with that boater, even flat water, and then we go from there. I'm not saying don't be friends with people who aren't in your field, but I think that don't be afraid to go back to these smaller runs and practice because that's where you're gonna make your friends, both new boaters and experienced boaters.
Yep. And I'd say most of the people I paddle with are either my skill level or below. Because I paddle on a lot of rivers that are very easy because I mostly just play boat. I've spent very little time in a creek boat and I actually just bought one. So I'm going to start pushing myself on those harder runs because I know that by pushing myself on those harder runs, I'm going to have more fun. And then I'm also going to be able to take those skills into my teaching and help people.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see how you perform going from play boating for the most part, just strictly play boating into creeking because like I was the opposite because of my size. Creek boats are super easy for me to get for the most part I can find creek boats that are going to fit like
Yep.
below this I've got a Recon 93. A lot of people hate it. I love that boat. I think it's great. It's a creek boat. I paddled it for a while, and I like going into play boating was a struggle for me at first because I was just like, God damn, dude, I'm flipping over in. I'm getting my ass handed to me. Like anytime I hit an eddy, I'm stern squirting. Like, what the hell am I doing wrong? So I would be interested to see how that goes from play boating into creeking. You should wear a GoPro for your first.
I need to get one. I always get one and then I sell it because I don't use it. And then I'm like, hey, I want a GoPro again. Then I get it, don't use it, sell it because I always ruin it with water droplets.
Well, that's my. I've got one I would send to you. I've got like a GoPro like Hero 7 White, but like for some reason holds moisture behind the lens, and I can't.
I think that's a common GoPro problem I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it, so I've
Yeah,
just kind
I feel like it would be a good point to wrap this up, and then we can keep talking after. So thanks guys for joining us for Wild Perspectives, and hopefully we gave you some information to learn about how to find more paddlers, and as well as a bunch of gear talk that we had in the beginning. All these podcasts are going to be have a basic theme, but then we're also going to go off on tangents, and it's going to be pretty raw. So
yeah.
hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and follow us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, and join us for our next episode.